Hello everyone, welcome back to Mad Manx Media. Castlevania, one of my favorite NES games and video game series of all time, is getting its own television series for Netflix, written by acclaimed comic writer Warren Ellis. This excites me a bunch because it means one of my favorite video games is getting the attention it deserves, the care it deserves, on a whole new level. But this isn't what really I want to talk about the majority of today. Thinking about this animated series made me think back to my childhood. All the video game cartoons I grew up with, they weren't fantastic, but I loved them as a kid. And I want to share some of my memories and some of my favorite cartoon shows with you today. Speaking of Castlevania, this isn't the first time that series has been represented in an animated format. I'm referring to, of course, Captain N, the Game Master, which featured Simon Belmont, the main character of the first Castlevania game on NES, as part of the cast. Captain N, the Game Master was about this kid named Kevin who gets whisked away to Videoland, which is basically a land of all your favorite video games growing up. All the NES guys were there, except Kevin was an original creation, but the team he teamed up with was Simon Belmont, Mega Man, Kid Icarus, and they had to fight Mother Brain and various other video game baddies, such as Eggplant Wizard and Dr. Wily. Man, I love this cartoon. I couldn't get enough of it. There was an episode where he teamed up with Link from Legend of Zelda. Sweet. Oh man, an embarrassing story about Captain N the Game Master is I love this cartoon so much. As a kid, I would take my NES zapper and I'd wrap around him like a belt, because Kevin had a zapper on his belt buckle that he would use the various buttons to do a function as a power. Like he'd push pause and it would pause everything. Man, I would have loved those powers, but I used to pretend I was a Captain N all the time as a kid. I would take my NES controller, I would wrap it in my belt loop, make it like I had like Kevin's controller, and I'd also get my NES zapper and run around shooting all around the room, jumping around. A little secret, I actually broke my NES zapper because I was playing around. I never told my mom or anybody about it. I just kind of hid the zapper away, didn't play any zapper games for a long time. But yeah, I ended up breaking the thing. So funny. But anyways, that's just one of the many cartoons I loved as a kid. The next video game cartoon I remember from being a kid, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. This one was awesome too. Mario Brothers, the most iconic Nintendo franchise, getting its own cartoon. I found out about this because I was just thumbing through the TV guide. I saw Super Mario Brothers. What? It got a cartoon? It didn't come on until like 6 in the morning, I think on a Saturday, and I waited anxiously for it. I set my alarm, got up, and lo and behold, it really was a cartoon. It was segmented by live action segments with Captain Lou Albano, the wrestler, and another guy playing Mario and Luigi and their hijinks, what have you. But the real meat of the show was the animated portion, which was really awesome. I remember the very first episode I watched was the Toad Warrior, I think. It was a Mad Max ripoff. But it was, for me as a kid, I thought this was amazing. But by any means, if you revisit it now, that cartoon is not great. But I so loved it. So much. Of course, every Friday, though, they did a Legend of Zelda episode, and as a kid I was like, Zelda, this is stupid, because as a kid I didn't realize Zelda was a good game. I didn't understand how to play it, so I thought naturally it was stupid. So the cartoon was just as dumb to me. Excuse me, princess, really? Give me back my Mario cartoon. The third cartoon I want to talk about is part of this show called Video Power. Video Power was this show booked in by 2 live action segments with this character called Johnny Arcade, who would give you video game tips, talk about the latest NES games, and what have you. But in the middle of the Video Power, there was this thing called the Power Team. This was the weirdest mishmash of obscure video game characters that I've ever heard of. It was basically, you team up like this tomato guy called Quirk from the Game Boy game called Quirk. There was like, I think, Pharaohs, Caros, something like that from Wizards and Warriors. Then there was the Bigfoot truck from Bigfoot, and Max Power from Narc. And I think, let's see, what was it? There's a basketball player. Who was the basketball player? Some guy from Arch Rivals, but it was basically they were teamed up as the power team, and they were just fighting random video game villains. I think like one of them was Mr. Big from Narc. And oh yeah, Johnny Arcade was also part of their team. I think he was giving them advice and stuff like that. And I ate it up when I could catch it on the air, but it wasn't on a whole lot. But yeah, that one was kind of goofy too. But that was a really cool one. Also, to me as a kid, now I'm just like, what were they thinking? Who played those games as a kid? I never heard of. The only game out of all those that I heard of as a kid was probably Wizards and Warriors. That was it. So I'm sure that show was on very long. In fact, it really wasn't. It had that first season. Then later it turned into a game show, which was pretty cool because the part of the game show that was really neat is at the very end, you got to run around this mall of video games and grab them all. And then all the ones you grabbed, you got them, keep them as a prize. So I watched that a lot too. Another cartoon I was crazy about when I was a kid was Sonic the Hedgehog. Not The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was a more slapstick take on Sonic. The more serious Sat AM, which is referred to online these days. In fact, the DVDs are to the right of me here. Though, that show, man, it was super cool. I loved it as a kid. I would swear out Sonic's catchphrases a lot. Think of the theme song, which the theme song rocks, by the way. Sonic is indeed the fastest thing alive. But that show, super good. In fact, it was so popular. There's a comic series that came out around the same time based on the show that's still running to this day. It's the longest running video game comic book of all time, actually. A few other cartoons I want to give brief mentions of, but I'm not really going to in-depth about them. I liked them though. They were cool, but I don't have as much of an attachment to them. There was a Goofy Street Fighter cartoon, which you should look on YouTube at all the weird animation errors and outtakes from that show. And then there was also a cartoon based on Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm. That wasn't on very long, but I remember watching it a lot because it hit right around the time of the Mortal Kombat movie. And then there was one based on Mega Man I used to catch right after Dragon Ball Z on Sundays, but I didn't get to watch too much of that as a kid. But I caught it much later, and that was a cool one too. Okay everyone, that concludes today's video here on Mad Manx Media. Thank you guys for going down memory lane with me for a little while as I reminisce about cartoons of my past. What video game cartoons did you guys like as a kid? Send out in the comments below, I want to hear about it. And if you want to keep up with Mad Manx Media and know every time I post a video, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to keep up with me on social media, why don't you follow me on Twitter at mad_manx_media. Alright guys, thank you for watching.